Today I'll be showing you how to make pajama pants, and I'm going to do a series called 3 ways to make pajama pants, and this will be the first video. I'll be showing you guys how to make these pajama pants, which are a pair of Star Wars pajama pants that I made. And this is using a 2-piece pattern, and the pattern is from Simplicity and it's number 1605. Hopefully this video was helpful to someone. So yeah, without further ado, please enjoy. This is the pattern that I'm currently using. So the first thing that you will need to do is look at the chart to see what size you need. Once you figure out what size you need, you want to locate that pattern piece and cut it out. When you cut the pattern piece out, you don't want to cut directly on the black line. For example, if you're cutting out a size medium, you want to cut closer towards the large line. I say that because it's easier to cut the fabric while also cutting the pattern piece. It's just a helpful tip. You'll see what I mean later in the video. With this pattern, you will have to cut out 2 pattern pieces, 1 piece for the front of the pant and 1 piece for the back of the pant. On the pattern piece itself, it says front or back, so you want to find out where those are located, and it also tells you how many pieces of fabric you need to cut per pattern piece. And the one that we're working with says to cut 2 pieces of fabric per pattern piece. I'll be working on the back pattern first, so if your fabric has writing on it or a design that goes in a certain direction, here is where you want to make sure that you have it turned the right way. Because your pattern piece says that you need 2 pieces, so you want to fold your fabric in half, then you want to position both pieces on top of the fabric to make sure you have enough room to cut them both. On the next step, it's completely optional, but I like to take my iron and iron the pattern piece to make sure all the wrinkles out. Here's what it looks like next to the piece that has not been ironed. Next, you want to pin the back of the pattern piece to both pieces of fabric that you folded. It just helps to keep everything in place while you're cutting out your pattern. So now you should be able to cut out your first pattern piece. If you cut your pattern piece a little bit bigger than the size you need, then you want to cut directly on the black line. If you cut your pattern piece the size that you need it, then you just want to proceed to cut around the pattern. On the next step, it's also optional, but there are little triangles all over the pattern piece. These are called notches, and they are to help guide you in sewing, so just go ahead and cut to the very top of all of the triangles. Both of your patterns should be cut out by now, and 2 pieces of fabric should be attached to both. Now you can go ahead and remove your pins. So next I'm going to take a fabric marker, and on the inside of each piece of fabric I'm going to mark each piece with a B for back or an F for front. I'm doing this at the top and bottom of each piece, and it's so I don't get the pieces mixed up. Now it's time to sew. I will be starting with my front pattern piece first. The outside of your fabric is called the right side, and the inside of your fabric is called the wrong side. For this part, you want to have your right sides touching, so you have to flip them around, making sure all sides are even, and you can use your notches that you cut earlier to help guide you. Now that you have your pants right sides together, you want to pin them in place. Once you are done with that, you can start sewing. You want to start sewing from the very top of the pant and stop down at the crotch. I have my sewing machine on tension 5. I have my width on about 3. And I have my length on 2. And I'm just doing a regular stitch. So here's how my stitch looks using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So now you can do the other side of the fabric the exact same way. Flip them right sides together, pin and sew. So now we have to attach the back piece to the front piece. You want to make sure that your right sides are touching, and I'm placing my back piece down first and putting my front piece on top. This part can also be very confusing because the front and the back pieces are different sizes, but that's the way that it's supposed to be. Everyone needs more room in the back than they do the front of their pants. First, we will work on the outside of the pants, so go ahead and pin both sides, making sure all sides are even. Then you will sew those sides together, starting from the top of the pant going down to the ankle. I still have my sewing machine on the same settings as before, using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So sew from the top of the pant all the way down to the bottom on both right and left legs. Now that we have the outside of our pants sewn together, we have to do the exact same thing to the inside of the pants. You want to make sure all sides are even, pin in place, and sew. On this next stitch, it will be one continuous stitch because you're going to go from the bottom of one leg straight down to the bottom of the other leg. Now we have to work on the waistband. The first thing that we will be doing is basting the seam where you connected the pants together. It's just a longer stitch that can easily be removed. The reason that you want to baste is so that your elastic band does not get caught in the seam when you insert it. There are going to be 4 sides that we need to baste, and you want to start at the top of the seam and go down to about the first notch that you cut in the beginning. Or you can stop where you think your waistband fold will end. I'm going to be changing my stitch length to a 4 so that I can easily cut this out once I'm done. So when you start your base stitch, you want to be as close to the edge as possible. You want to start at the top, you want to go down, stop at your stopping point, then pivot. So you lift your presser foot up, turn the pants to finish the stitch, get to the other side of the fabric, pivot again, and go down till you reach the edge. And you want to do the exact same thing on all 4 seams. We can start on our waistband casing now. So on the first fold, you want to go down 1/4 of an inch all the way around. You want to iron that down so that it creases well. You can also pin it to keep it in place. And once you've ironed it all around, you want to make another fold. But before you do that fold, you want to make sure your elastic fits in the fold before you iron it. I already have my elastic cut, but you just put it around your waist until it's comfortable. Then add an inch because you will need to overlap the ends to sew them down. So to make room for the elastic, just place the elastic under the fold until it completely fits. Mark it with a pin, fold it down all the way around, and then iron the fold to crease it. As soon as you have it folded all the way down, you want to go back over it with the elastic band to make sure the elastic fits between the pins and the crease. Once you are completely sure that the elastic fits in that casing, go ahead and iron the top of the crease to make sure it stays. We have to sew the waistband casing now. When you do this, you want to make sure you stay on the doubled fabric underneath. Because you have just enough room to put your elastic band, you don't want to make it too small. Before you start sewing, you want to make a marker so that you don't sew the casing all the way. I like to use 2 pins of the same color. You will need about 1 to 2 inches so that you can insert the elastic. You also want to make sure that you're paying close attention because you don't want to sew past the 2 pins because you won't be able to insert your elastic. Once you get to your stopping point, make sure you backstitch. Then you can go ahead and take your pins out to get your elastic ready. To insert your elastic, you will need a safety pin that you connect to the end of your elastic to feed through your waistband. You want to pay close attention to the other end of the elastic to make sure it's not getting too short because you will need to sew both ends together. Once you have 2 ends of elastic sticking out, you want to overlap them. I did mine about 1 inch, but you want to use your judgment based on how you measure your elastic. You can pin it in place, then I did a couple of zigzag stitches to connect the ends. Here's what your waistband should look like now. You're almost done. Now you need to close your casing. You have to start your stitch exactly where you stop to insert your elastic. Make sure you backstitch here. We have to work on our hem now. Depending on how your pants fit, you want to adjust as needed. We will do this exactly the same way we did our waistband. I'm going to fold up 1/4 of an inch, iron that, then fold 1/2 an inch up and iron that, then sew it. You need to do the exact same thing to both legs. Also make sure they're even. So I hope you guys enjoyed my tutorial on making these pants. I hope this was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions, leave them below, and I will definitely get back to you. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in my next video.